Hi, smart lady.
Hi.
Yeah, this
I,
is I'm reading already the comments.
I know, and I
You
absolutely love when some,
see?
incel in a basement in his mother's house who has not seen the daylight for like the last 10 years writes, "Hey, smart lady," to me, but let's go. I'm excited.
What an answer. This is the comment to the video. The Trump ultimatum. How will Putin react? Could the Ukraine-Russia war end in 2025? Hi, smart lady. Have you heard of Minsk agreements? The Istanbul Memorandum? Russian minorities, all of them, in Donbas, which is Ukrainian land, NATO expansion. Why don't you make video on that topic? Question mark.
I have made many videos on that topic. In fact, if you want to go check out my personal channel at Yewleea on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, literally everywhere and anywhere, you can find tons of videos on all of those subjects, especially long format on YouTube, short format on TikTok, and I'm not saying this to promote my channel. I'm literally saying this to express how many videos over the past
Don't
3
worry,
years
they don't care.
there have been on the
This is not
internet.
a question, Yewleea.
Oh, I know it's not a
This is
question.
a statement. So it's like
It is, but there is a question mark, so I feel obliged to
Yeah.
entertain this and stretch my mental health as far as it can go, which is what we're doing in this segment. I feel like this is not even a segment of you reading comments to me and me responding. It's a segment of of whoever our producer is. I think it's Alexei, right? It's just him acquiring entertainment through seeing how much I can endure. So thanks, Lyosha, for that one. Anyways, yes, I have heard about the Minsk agreements, and Russia has violated both of them. Have you heard about the Ilovaisk corridor? I bet you didn't. The Ilovaisk corridor was basically a green corridor in 2014, where upwards of 400 Ukrainian servicemen were defending the city of Ilovaisk from the Russian invasion, but obviously their forces were not as strong as Russian. So Ukraine and Russia made an agreement where Ukrainian military gives up and gives the city to Russians, and they exit peacefully through a green corridor, as in like the entire unit that was there surrendered. So at that point, a couple of hundred of Ukrainian servicemen enter the green corridor, and what does Russia do? Russia legitimately starts firing artillery at them on purpose. And so over 300 Ukrainian servicemen died. That was a green corridor, a pre-agreed upon green corridor that Russia violated. As much as Russia violated the Minsk agreements every single time, as much as Russia violated the ceasefire agreements every single time. Have you heard about the Budapest Memorandum? Because I have. And of course, you're only selectively using propaganda-worthy memorandums and agreements, which for some reason Russian propaganda likes to portray as if Ukraine violated, but in reality it was still Russia that violated all of them. So Russia violated the Budapest Memorandum, which is an agreement in which Ukraine gave up its second largest at the time nuclear arsenal in the world in exchange for security guarantees from many countries, including the US, the UK, France, and Russia. Yeah, you got it. So Russia violated that one because Russia was guaranteeing Ukraine's territorial integrity and sovereignty, and then went and invaded Ukraine. What was the other thing that they mentioned?
Well, the Russian minorities in Donbas.
Oh yes, the Russian minorities in Donbas. My
I know you
favorite.
like that.
My favorite subject, one of my really good friends, Ola, she's also an online activist. She's also a brilliant human rights lawyer in London. And you know why she lives in London? Because in 2014, when she was about 14 or 16 years old, I don't quite remember, Ola had to pack all of her stuff on her knees in her apartment and flee Donbas with her family because it was invaded by Russia. And then she and her family moved to Kyiv, and her parents were scared that this was going to happen again, so they sent her to study in London. And you know what happened? In 2022, it happened again, and her family was displaced again, and they had to go to the Czech Republic. And before you say that they really wanted to immigrate and that's why they went somewhere, no, they actually came back, and her mom and dad still live here in Kyiv, in the Bologna. However, Ola lives in England, and she's pursued her career as a human rights lawyer specifically because she wants to argue cases like Ukraine's in front of the International Criminal Court. And that happened because she was a Russian speaker in Donbas, and Russia came to liberate her. Or also those same other Russian speakers in Donbas are the people that were living in villages like Andriivka, Avdiivka, Pokrovsk, Pervomaiske, Selidove, I'm actually mentioning cities that no longer exist because they were carpet bombed to the ground, and the people that Russia came to rescue no longer have anywhere to live. So I think they came to rescue the Russian speakers in Ukraine from having housing. Yeah, I think they came to rescue Russian speakers in Ukraine from stability. But yeah, I can keep going. It's also Mariupol.
Exactly.
It's also Bakhmut. It's also Severodonetsk. You know, it's Slovyansk. There are many cities, and none of them exist. They look like rubble. Have you seen the LA fires? They made like a big boom in the internet recently.
But this is Ukrainian fault. For some
Yeah.
reason, Ukrainians just didn't want to lay down and die. They don't want to give Russia what Russia always wants, and that is everything.
Yeah, but here's the thing, I just want to bring this up again because the easiest argument against those people is that here's the thing. So somehow Russia came to save Russian speakers in Ukraine, but then those same people who say that also say that Ukraine should have given up and given in to Russia because now too many Ukrainians are dying and fighting. So if Russia came to save people, why did we even need to give up? Wouldn't the people just run towards Russia and be like, "Oh my God, yay, hi"? Isn't that why are those same people fighting against Russia? It makes no sense. And you know why it makes no sense? Because the people who comment this really need to step away from the laundromat because the brainwashing, too many cycles.
There were also NATO expansion. Why? Have you heard of NATO expansion? Let me start with this. People, exactly. This is not a question again. This is a statement. You're absolutely right, just with a question mark. So, NATO expansion is expanding faster with Putin than with anybody else.
Oh yeah, Putin
He
is actually
made literally Finland and Sweden into, he pushed this country.
He's the
so
best.
thank you.
He's the
Comrade
best PR
Putin.
person for NATO expansion, but also the people that make the comment about NATO expansion always say not an inch to the east, because that was in the agreement between Gorbachev and the United States. However, yes, there was a quote that said not an inch to the east, but that meant to the east from West Germany into the east of East Germany. Because at that time when this conversation was happening, it was West Germany and East Germany. West Germany had NATO troops. East Germany was being liberated, actually, from Russia. So the agreement was that NATO is not stepping an inch into East Germany until its reunification, which later happened, right? But also, Gorbachev, the person who was in the room when that happened, the person who was participating in the agreement, the person who was negotiating the agreement, who was the Soviet president at the time, said that there was never talk about NATO expansion. It was never mentioned. It was never talked about. No one cared about NATO expansion at that time. NATO never promised anything like that to the Soviet Union. They promised not to touch East Germany until the Soviet troops are out. Point blank, period, done.
Full stop.
Yes.
Right. So the only reason at 121DM, that's the author of this beautiful comment that starts with a hi smart lady and whatever then comes after it.
Hi, dumb commenter.
DM. Oh, that's DC. All right. Well,
How
we'll
high
close-
limited intelligence commenter.
But this is
Hi,
the
special person. Hi,
Very-
mama's special boy. Anyways, I'm done. Okay.
All right. So you DM 1211. I think whatever we tell you, whatever the reasons, wherever the facts, how many of them, it doesn't matter to you. You will always find the reason to believe to Russian propaganda, and I get it, because Russian propaganda is a massive thing. Putin invests billions and billions, maybe, I don't know, trillions, that's too
No,
much.
it's billions. It's 4 billion as at the latest.
Five or something, maybe. I don't
No, it
know.
was 4 billion at the latest calculation, but that was just the stuff they admitted to.
Right. So,
But point is, I don't think we're doing this for the people that comment this. I think that
Absolutely.
personally, my motive here is to respond to these very mama's special boy type of comments and hope that people share them with their friends and family, who might have those beliefs. Because the idea here is that I don't want to judge, although I know I come off very sarcastic, but it's like, hey, give me a break. I've been repeating the same thing over and over and over and over again for the past 3 years on the internet, so give me some grace. But point is that, no judgment. Some people actually don't know any of these facts, and some people wouldn't know anything about Gorbachev or the fact that that
Well,
he
that much is
himself,
true. Right, okay.
he himself actually admitted that NATO expansion was never there, and it was never like talked about, nor was it ever like a
But Putin
taboo.
could pick up any reason. I mean, that would,
Yeah,
it could be
exactly.
not NATO. It could be, I don't know, his mother's
Yeah.
surname. And that
I
would,
mean,
that
but
would
that's
be,
how propaganda works. It's meant
Exactly.
it's
You
meant
just
to put
invest
out
into
as
it.
much
Yeah. Pressure.
like fiery and as much sort of like loud stuff as humanly possible, so it resonates with someone, right? And that's kind of how it works, and that's the problem with it. But also, that's why a lot of people don't necessarily hear the truth and don't necessarily hear the correct information and believe things like NATO expansion and Minsk agreements, because they just throw loud words and they don't give explanations, and looking for explanations takes time, and also you have to shift through all of the like articles. So this is why we are here, and I just wanted to point out that while I'm being sarcastic and maybe a little derogatory to the particular
like that.
commenters, yeah, but I want to create a very, understanding-inducing environment for the
Right.
people that are real people behind
Go
the
ahead.
screen who are going to be listening to this. So if I'm being mean, I'm not being mean to you, I'm being mean to a specific kind of idiot that wrote that. Anyways,
just make sure you're not that specific kind, and that will be all right. Let's slide to another comment. Gary Jones 8334. These figures in the end.
I mean, you can just skip that. Yeah,
All
go
right,
ahead.
all right. Gary Jones.
Hi, Gary.
Hi, Gary.
Hi, Gary.
The only way Putin will agree to stop is Ukraine without NATO. Ukraine missed the best option. Did we? All right.
Can I just stop you right there? Ukraine is without NATO.
By the way.
Are we done? Is this it? Is this the end of the war? Because
I'm just-
Ukraine is without NATO.
I'm
Ukraine has
imagining
been
the
without
Kremlin
NATO.
now. Oh my God. They're not in NATO. We should step back.
Yeah, I literally like, hey, Vladimir Putin, this is my official statement to you. Ukraine has been, is, and probably will be for a while without NATO. The will be for a while without NATO is literally because of your invasion. But Ukraine has been without NATO this whole time. The entire time. In fact, Ukraine never wanted to join NATO until 2022. Even in 2014, majority of Ukrainians were against the NATO membership, and
Absolutely,
it only grew into the majority of Ukrainians being for NATO membership because Putin invaded in 2022. So I would just like to point out that Putin needs to take his troops and GTFO out of Ukraine because we have been without NATO this whole time. Solved. Thank you. What was his name?
Gary Jones.
Gary. Thank you. Oh my gosh, what
Well,
a genius.
Gary wouldn't care. Gary just writes some more words.
But Gary just solved the whole war.
Exactly.
I mean, he should be in the Trump administration.
Maybe he is.
They're missing. No. I mean, if Gary was there, the war would have ended in 24 hours. Get a grip. Get a grip, Henry.
All right, so I'm getting the grip to
Yeah.
this comment. Ukraine missed the best option a few times and short-sightedly chose war. Yeah. God. All right, okay. Ukraine could economically chosen the best of both worlds. Is that we're talking about the worlds with best trade options by being neutral? Full stop. Being neutral. How can you be neutral
Okay,
when
so-
someone invades your country?
No, but here's like my question. So Ukraine could have chosen not war, right? So the first days of the full-scale invasion, Russia literally was aiming to take Kyiv, kill Zelensky, hang him, and all that jazz, right? They just didn't succeed in doing so for many, many reasons, including a lot of Ukrainian people volunteering to go fight without any experience, right? Territorial defenses, hold the ground. So how would Ukraine be neutral? So like Russia is invading Ukraine, they're marching towards Kyiv. Ukraine goes white flag, we're neutral, right? So Russia takes over Ukraine. There is no Ukraine left anymore because now it's
Well, here we go.
suddenly
That's neutral.
Now it's suddenly the Kyiv National People's Republic and the Lviv National People's Republic and whatnot. But at that point, I feel like you would probably be just like, oh, we're gonna go hang out with Poland over here. But anyways, so at that point, Ukraine doesn't exist. How can Ukraine be neutral? You understand that like there is literally zero way that Ukraine can continue to exist and Ukrainian language can continue to be spoken and Ukrainian literature can continue to be studied at schools and Ukrainians can continue to be like, hey, I am Ukrainian.
And I have a
without
right,
fighting this
rightfully
war.
so. I can
Like,
be Ukrainian
I am
because
Ukrainian,
I was.
you know,
That's
like I
it.
speak Ukrainian, I identify as Ukrainian. Even if I spoke Russian, I would still identify as Ukrainian. And if Russia were to come and invade Kyiv and take Ukraine under, then if I said, "Hi, I am Ukrainian," nice little buddy Russian soldier would take me to a basement, pardon graphic details, but rape me, torture me, and then quite literally probably force me to have his child because, you know, Russia needs to continue reproducing, and more
I know.
Russian
Yeah,
men need to come out of, you know,
right.
women's
Well,
bodies so they can fight wars and invade other countries. So point is that to your like whole statement that Ukraine chose war and Ukraine chose to fight, and we could have just stayed neutral. Well, how do we stay neutral without fighting for our existence? Because if we don't exist, we don't have that choice, do we? We're absorbed now. Anyways, logic went out of the window here, but go
well,
ahead.
Gary Jones could. I mean,
I mean,
maybe he could.
Gary Jones is the savior of the world. Honestly, like, because good for you, man. You were so smart. You figured everything out. Wow, my patience today is much less than last time.
Well, maybe you should lose your temper at some point because it's really we are. That was a good point that you made. That we are doing this for the people that really have questions, that really want to know why Ukraine is acting this way and not the other way.
Yeah,
around.
but I think like even in my sort of frustration and my sort of like emotional response, right? I think it's pretty evident that like when you say Ukraine could have chosen neutrality not to fight, how do you choose neutrality if, okay, so if we didn't fight, Russia would have come over here, hung Zelensky, abolished our government, because that was
Absolutely.
one of their, like they said it to the world. It's not like speculation or anything. They literally said that one of the first things was to topple the Kyiv regime. How does Ukraine stay neutral if Russia comes in and takes over and topples our government and erases our borders and erases our country as a whole? You might want to say that, oh, Russia wanted to install a different president, but then why is a president being installed by Russia?
Because this is neutrality by Gary Jones. You see, this is the
His name was Gary Jones?
oh, Gary
That's
Jones.
a Russian troll. It's a little too on the nose.
Here
I'm
comes
sorry,
the number.
John Smith,
Here
1,
comes
2,
the
3,
number
4,
after it. So
5.
Gary Jones, 1, 2, 3. This one
Exactly.
is 8,334.
John Smith, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Right, or
Anyways.
whatever. I'm going to slide over to another comment, which I like the most. This is about Bucha. Peter Greenwood asks a question. Bucha. The press was not allowed to enter for 3-4 days. The mayor said the atrocity did not happen. Before you start, again, I was there. I was the press there in Bucha immediately, after Russians left. With the fucking mayor. Okay? He ran away. He flee maybe not with Russians, but he was not there. So atrocity actually did not happen for him. But I've seen the pit in the ground full of dead bodies. I've seen it with my own eyes, with this one. I know what happened. I don't know how to make you believe in that. Maybe you should be, even if you would be there, you wouldn't believe. I know it's cozy and comfortable on your sofa, sitting there and asking questions about Bucha that it never happened, because it's hard to believe that it happened. It's hard to believe that someone can invade a country and just destroy the whole community, just fucking kill them. Men, women, children, all of them, because they are Ukrainians, because this is the only reason. And there is no way for me to take what I know and to administer it to your brain so you will believe it also. But maybe Yewleea can.
I don't think I can, but all I can tell you is that, you know, when all of this was happening, I was in New York, and obviously I was already having like some very, very mixed emotions, because like I'm not going to pretend that it's harder to be in New York than it was to be in Kyiv or anywhere else, obviously, but it was very hard because I didn't know it was happening real time and I was just reading the news. So some of my good friends, they're family friends. I grew up with them, 2 sisters, their parents, right? The parents are my mom's best friends. They fled Kyiv. They live near Kyiv, but the other way towards Odessa. And they fled Kyiv and came to live with my mom for a couple of months. And when the massacre in Bucha was happening, Sasha, who is one of the sisters, her boyfriend, who's now her fiance, they actually just recently got engaged, and I'm very happy for them. He was in Bucha at his grandma's house because he lives in Kyiv, and obviously everyone thought that since Russia is trying to invade Kyiv, it would be a lot safer to go to the suburbs. Little did they know. So they were stuck in a basement for about a week, and Sasha was freaking out because obviously she thought that she would never see her boyfriend again because we've all heard what was happening. Obviously, there were, people were talking to their relatives. They were using their cell phones when they could, and they were telling them what was happening. They were telling them that Russians were shooting everybody. There were videos obviously coming out from street cams and CCTV and stuff. And Sasha was terrified and petrified. Her boyfriend made it out of there by chance, because there was a humanitarian convoy that Russia decided not to shoot through, and they made it there last minute. They heard about this convoy literally 3 minutes after it left, and they just went and chased it and found it. And somehow, this entirely Jewish family, which Russia, loves Jews, made it out of there alive. And it was not because, humanitarian convoy, Russia let them through. No, it was pure chance, because other humanitarian convoys were quite literally shot with artillery. So yeah, Bucha didn't happen. All of these people that died in Bucha didn't happen. Russia did not rape, torture, and execute civilians with their hands tied behind their back. That didn't happen. It's just, Ukraine loves masochism so much that we like to make these things up just so we can stare at them and ravish in the atrocities that are happening to our country. I will tell you more. I wish Bucha never happened. I wish Borodyanka never happened. I wish Izum never happened. I wish Irpin never happened. I wish Mariupol never happened. I wish Slovyansk never happened. I wish Severodonetsk never happened. I wish Bakhmut never happened. I wish Soledar never happened. I wish Avdiivka never happened. I wish Andriivka never happened. I wish any Pokrovsk never happened. And I can keep going. I can keep naming cities that I wish never happened. Because you know what that would mean? That they would still be standing and people would be just going about their day. I wish it never happened. And if Bucha was the only case of that, you could make an argument that Russia didn't do it. But unfortunately, there's hundreds of cities in Ukraine that have suffered the same fate.
How can you ignore that? How can you ignore the fact?
Because it's convenient.
Exactly. That was my point that I was about to make. It's just very convenient to say, the mayor said the atrocity did not happen. What if you would lose your life? Not your life, the life of
But
your
also,
loved.
when did the mayor say that? When did the mayor say that?
This is not even the
Never.
question. This is not even the question. Maybe he never said that. Well,
He never said that.
Exactly. Well, but if someone loses, this is not a genocide. This never happens. Right until the moment that in this pit in the ground, you see a face that you know, your wife, your child, and you love them, still love them, but they're dead. And no one believes you.
I'll
Say,
give you
never
actually a
happened.
very
It was
interesting
staged.
example. So most of the world now knows who Alexander Usyk is. He's the heavyweight boxing champion, absolute champion of the world. And Alexander Usyk until 2022 was spreading a lot of, well, let's be brothers narratives about Russia. A lot of people didn't like him because since 2014 he was pushing for this well, let's find a mutual language. Let's find peace. They're good people. We're just we're related. They're nice. Let's speak to them. In 2022, his wife and son were stuck near Kyiv in Ukraine, and he was very worried about them. And Russians found his house and stayed in his house and lived in his house and,
Do they know
defaced
this
his...
is his house, or just
Yeah, they did. They did.
Right.
It was all over
So
Russian
that was done on
Telegram
purpose.
channels. They knew
Right.
that it was his house. And he was supporting Russians and supporting peace talks and supporting all of this stuff. He still lived in Ukraine. He wasn't saying he was Russian, but he was saying that we're related, right? And we should find a mutual language. So Russians stayed at his house. They defaced the hell out of his house. They literally did unspeakable things to his house, to his neighbors, to all of these things. Alexander Usyk, since 2022, is of the opinion that you cannot resonate with anything Russian because it's evil, it's disgusting, and it has no soul. Because Russians stayed at his house, and when he came back home, he realized that these are not people you can speak to, and these are not people that you can make concessions or you can make agreements with. So maybe that will give you some food for thought, because this was a person who wholeheartedly believed that Crimea, is a tricky territory, tricky territory,
I like that.
and that
Tricky
Russians
territory.
are Russians are worth a conversation with. That's no longer his opinion today, because he's can't come face to face with what the Russian world is like.
Thanks to Russian world.
Yeah.
Thanks to Russian world, NATO
Thanks
is
to
growing.
Russians themselves.
That just pushes us to a comment which is short and
Short and sweet.
is 10 energia, which is IS 10 energia, whatever, and then becomes the number. Eastern energia, well, whatever. Zelensky narrative equals war is peace. Like, if I understand it right, so Zelensky and the nation, the Ukrainian nation wants to survive and it fights back, and you call that a war. Would you prefer that Ukrainian nation just lay down and die, and that will be peace for you?
Well, Zelensky never said that war is peace. In fact, that's the Dostoevsky
Never say,
type
it's just
of.
that it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the narrative
No,
of
no,
Zelensky.
I understand, but
Right.
he, even if you take his narrative, you would never gather that from there because Zelensky has legitimately never equated war to peace or peace to war. The person who equates peace to lack of military action yet still torture and acts of heinous crimes against humanity is Putin. Because again, you think that if military action stops, everybody is jolly and happy and Russia just took land, why not take that? The people that live under Russia today, the people that live on Russian territory today, can't say, I'm Ukrainian. They get tortured, civilians. Can't have a Ukrainian flag, they get tortured. Can't speak Ukrainian to their families, neighbors, whatever, they get tortured. Even if Ukrainian is the only language they know, and believe me, I know you're not gonna. But many people just speak Ukrainian and don't speak Russian. Don't know Russian because they never needed to. In fact, most villages in Donetsk, people speak Ukrainian, not Russian. So yeah, if those people want to call their relatives in Ukraine, they get tortured because they're being portrayed as collaborators. If those people want to donate to the AFU to come save them, right? That's their choice. The people that are supposedly saved by Russia, right? They will literally be probably executed for collaborating with the armed forces of Ukraine. They are not allowed to learn any history that isn't what Russia wants history to be. In school, their kids get indoctrinated into the Russian military to fight against Ukraine. How is that peace?
Well,
If you
that's
think
Russian
that's peace and you would live in those give me this. If you think that if you were in this situation and these were the conditions that you had to accept or fight, except put your own circumstance in there, what would you do? Because if you would accept this, case
Well,
closed.
let's find out. Come over. Come over, go to Donbas and speak Ukrainian. Try to raise Ukrainian flag and see what happens. Maybe Yewleea is lying. Find out for yourself. Let's do a test. All
Such
right.
a good prop, by the way. Would you like some?
Yeah, thank you. Right, so next comment. That was Gary Johnson's already passed. Rebecca Karaska. Yeah, that's Gary Jones' girlfriend, maybe,
Wife.
or mum. All right. Do you think the United States has the right to just take the Panama Canal? Canada, probably. Greenland. Do you think Hawaii should be allowed self-determination?
Yeah.
What is your stance of free Palestine? If you believe in sovereignty, you would speak on this. Maybe people would pay more attention to your plight if Zelensky wasn't such a hypocrite.
How is he a hypocrite? Zelensky does not think that the U.S. is entitled to Canada, the Panama Canal, or any of these things. I think that you need to be an absolute moron, pardon my French, to think that the U.S. can just go and get Greenland. Or any of these places. In fact, Denmark actually is freaking out because there was a phone call between Trump and Denmark, and he was like, I want to buy it. And they're like, it's not for sale. And he's like, I want it. I'm going to have it. And they're like, it's not for sale. This is about.
I'm going to buy Greenland. Jesus.
Yeah, and he's just like not taking no
Maybe
for
Trump
an
just
answer.
doesn't know that green is dollars.
Yeah,
You know, so
and someone was saying that like Greenland should have a referendum. Doesn't that ring a bell a little bit?
Yeah.
Doesn't that ring a bell? But yeah, as to Palestine, actually, did you know that the largest percentage of foreigners in Palestine that lived there before the bombing started happening were Ukrainians? Because during the Soviet Union, there was actually large cooperation between Palestine and the USSR, and the USSR would bring like Palestinians to study in USSR universities. And then Ukrainian people would meet them and they would like migrate to Palestine. So there were lots of Ukrainians in Palestine. That's one, too. Zelensky, while he stands for Israel's right to exist, he also did say that what Israel is doing to Palestine is not okay and that the killings and the murder should stop, and he does not support this. Also, there was humanitarian aid sent to Palestine from Ukraine, and Ukraine also helped evacuate a lot of people from Palestine. So while you selectively listen to what media tells you to shape a narrative, if you had done this much research, you would know. But also, the funny thing is that so Ukrainians deserve to die and burn in hell and be tortured and have things like Bucha happen to us every day because, let's say, our president is not
Okay
talking
for you.
about but talking about Palestine on air every day while there is a genocide of our own people. Like, this whataboutism pisses me off so much because when I go under videos of Palestinian people, or any videos about Palestine, there's not a single comment that says, "What about Ukraine?" You know why? Because you don't defer to a different suffering on a video of someone suffering. It's like, imagine if someone was like, "I found out I have cancer, and this is terrible, and I need help, I'm dying." And you came over there and was like, "Well, you know what? My neighbor Gary has cancer too."
Gary Jones Lang.
Like, what about my neighbor Gary? Like, dude, no one knows your neighbor Gary in there. It's not about Gary today. And also, if you wanted to bring awareness about Palestine or Gary and his cancer, maybe you should start a channel talking about it, and you should stop asking victims of other genocides to talk about someone else's genocide. Like, we're kind of going through something here. We're a little busy.
Yeah, Israel and Palestine will going to find a language. They will find and just 2 million Arabs are living in Israel. How many Palestinians living in how many Israelis living in Palestine?
I don't know.
4?
I don't know.
5?
I actually have no idea, but
All
also,
right,
I don't,
Not much, but I mean, but what never is going to happen, I was talking to my Ukrainian friends, and all of them, whether professors or just common people, now I'm elevating myself, So they say that after this war, after a ceasefire, whenever and however it comes, for Ukraine should be getting ready for another invasion, for another war,
Oh, yeah,
constantly, forever, because Russia is there.
Yeah.
And that's it, as simple as that. And if you don't believe that, you don't have to believe. Exactly.
Unless Russia falls apart in many different tiny little parts, and then that.
Well, that's not a very good scenario
Or it becomes the ocean
either.
of dreams. Insert meme here.
Maybe, but the thing is that you have to be ready always when you're living next door to your mad neighbor that just wants to destroy the nation, or the Ukrainian nation as a whole, but he cannot provide you with truth because obviously it's horrific. So he finds a reason. NATO is expanding. Look, there are Ukrainians on the other side of the moon. Something else is happening. They have all these killing mosquitoes and whatever the geese, Ukrainian geese, they're flying faster than a goddamn fighter jet, or whatever the reason is. And people find their reason to believe that Putin is right because it's fun. It's just fun to sit on the sofa and say, yeah, Putin is right. Otherwise, you would have to admit that you're a fucking fascist. And that's hard, all right? That's easiest way. I mean, Putin is right. Of course he's right. Otherwise, I'm a killer. I'm a murderer and a rapist.
That you're a hypocrite because if you care about Palestine so much and you care about human lives, why is it selective?
Because
why do you selectively care about Palestinians being murdered, but you can justify Ukrainians being murdered every day? Also, for the people who are like, oh my gosh, there is no war in Ukraine. Have you seen Palestine? Palestine is like a tiny little plot of land. So obviously, when you look at the destruction, right? It's right there in front of you. You know how many Gaza strips happened in Ukraine?
In every community here.
I've named them because every one of those cities is about the size of Gaza.
Well, that's it.
Oh.
For tonight, yeah.
I just got used to it.
All right, well,
I just got used to responding.
I don't know. Maybe we should address Bucha again, but we already said it.
I mean, we already did. But point is, here's what I want to say: is these comments are going to keep coming, right?
Yeah,
And
sure.
some of them are real people, some of them are bots, some of them are instigators, right? Some of them are ignorant or just like simply lack education, and not in an elitist way that I'm saying it, but it's just like there was no way for you to know these things because it's just not within your environment, right? And you have a job and you have other things to do, and it's not like you have time to sit on the internet and research Ukraine's history
That
or
is true,
facts, right?
yeah.
So it's like, I'm not saying this to be mean. It's just like, obviously for entertainment value, I, as a host of a TV program, know that if I'm going to sit here and say this with a straight face and
Boring.
with a lot of sorrow in my eyes, no one's going to watch it, right? But if I'm mean to Gary, you know,
Gary
some more of you might be retaining
the
this
headline
information
tonight.
because now it's no longer taken as like, you know, as like a serious segment or some serious information for your brain to retain. Your brain takes it as entertainment, so you actually end up retaining more. So what I'm trying to say is that, like, please don't take it personally when I'm being mean. I do really want to educate people, and I do really understand a lot of people in a lot of circumstance who still don't know a lot of facts. But I really do hope that if you are one of those people, you will take the time to actually listen to this, do your own research or do your own analysis and see that, you know, here's the thing. There are all of these excuses as to why Ukraine is to blame. They all contradict each other, and there's so many of them, and they never add up. Why would you need to find so many excuses to invade something if actually you have all the right to do so? Think about that. Why do you need so many justifications? Because it's unjustified. Anyways.
Amen to that.
Yeah,
Well,
I think
that
that's
seems
it
to be
for
enough,
today.
smart lady. Thank you.
Smartly.
Yeah, it's not me. It's DM121. But you
Oh, well,
are
you
smart.
didn't have to. You didn't have to
You know
use
I
that,
love
Henry.
You know I love you. Thank you so
Oh
very
my
much.
gosh, are you?
Touch my
no one
hand.
has
Give me a
ever
high
confessed
five.
their love to me on air.
Yeah, well, I'm in
Anyways,
love. And he's smart. He's smart. She's smart. I'm sorry.
he is.
He's smart. I was thinking
Henry.
about DM1211 DM. Do you really think? Just by the way, do you think these people are? You know, Gary Joneses and Rebecca.
Depends.
whoever-
Some
yeah.
of them are real, and some
Yeah.
of them are trying way too hard to seem like they're.
Well, look at the
a
language.
Westerner.
Some are American.
yeah.
English is okay. Some are like Russian bots
Yeah.
for sure.
I mean, it's a mixture. I
It's a
do
mixture,
think that
right.
yeah,
So-
some of these people are Russian bots, and some of these people repeat the Russian bot rhetoric because it's just so available on the internet that that's all the
Exactly.
information
Reading my
that's being thrown on people,
All right.
and that's about it.
Close
yeah.
the program.
I closed the program. Okay, well, hey guys, genuinely, thank you for listening to this. And if you know people that you think could benefit from listening to this
Right.
program, like, do please send it to them because it's so important, especially now that, you know, Trump cut aid to Ukraine for 90 days for the revision of programs and stuff. We're barely going to be surviving because one of the things that you might not know is that a lot of these American programs funded independent media worldwide. So a lot of Ukrainian media that's independent and is surviving on foreign help and foreign aid is now going to have to shut down because for 90 days they're not going to have any resources, and that's a lot. That's 3 months. That's a quarter, okay? So do please support Ukrainian media. That includes us, although we're not independent media, so we're lucky in that way. We do have funding. However, what I'm trying to say is that you're going to see a lot less information coming from Ukraine. So it's so imperative that you share it. So yes, please share this video, like it, comment on it, send it to a friend. Also, please do subscribe to UA TV English and turn on all of your notifications so you don't miss the next video with me and Henry and our fantastic co-host chemistry over here. Yeah, so please do
And
everything
also,
you can.
I just want to add, if you find some outrageous comments of Russian
Yeah.
bots, or not just Russian bots, anyone new, just make a screenshot, send it over to us.
Yeah,
We're
if
gonna
you
dissect
find
it for you.
comments on the internet, like Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, whatever you watch, please do send it to us. Which, do you know where they could send it to? Do we have
you
an
can-
email in bio or
probably
something?
UA of English has an email on YouTube.
Yeah, okay,
and
so
plenty of contacts.
Send
there.
it to our email or send it to me, send it to Henry, send it to someone. You know, you can send it to me the easiest on Instagram at YEWLEEA and send me the screenshot and we will try to include it in the next program if we feel like it fits our vibe. All right. See you next time. Next week, same spot.
See you, bye.